Good, everybody seems to be here. So welcome to the webinar focusing on sports as a tool for peace and conflict resolution. I'm Vlad Spencer. I'm talking to you from the Washington, D.C. region. I don't know if you see behind me, it's raining today in this region, so not very good weather. It's good to stay at home and watch webinars. Our co-moderator is Anata Devosian. She's in Yerevan, Armenia. So this webinar is part of the International Sports Programming Initiative of the State Department Sports Diplomacy Division, and is produced by World Learning and Digital Communication Network Southeast Europe Hub. The discussion brings together this time speakers who are part of our exchanges over the years. Those are the in-person interactions that we coordinate when life is normal, and obviously we hope as soon as possible after COVID that we are going to resume those exchanges. Today's discussion is not about politics, is not about one specific region. The premise is that while many times regular people find themselves in circumstances they cannot control, they hardly control, like confrontations or conflicts or wars, the building blocks of peace and tolerance and mutual understanding can be and are being built at the grassroots level by all of us in a variety of ways. And sport is an ideal that specific task. During our sports diplomacy sponsored exchanges, we always include a component, if not the whole program, on conflict resolution through sports. We have had sports exchanges in the Middle East promoting tolerance and mutual understanding between Jewish and Arab populations. We had an exchange in Lebanon, for Lebanon, looking through the lens of sports at complex ethnic mix with Christians and Muslims. We had exchanges in Turkey and Armenia, with Turkey and Armenia having to address serious issues, both historical and contemporary. One of my best memories from these exchanges that has even more relevance these days, I'm sure that you all watch news and you know what I'm talking about, is when I watched in Armenia how parents and grandparents of local sports participants greeted and cared with love and warmth the visiting Turkish young student athletes. And in that specific case and many others, sports brought people together in unique and hopeful ways. We'll hear today, I'm sure, from our speakers, many other similar examples, proving again that sports is a very valuable tool in creating this environment for peace, understanding, and tolerance. A few technical details before we start. By now, we've been forced to actually know Zoom very well. We count on your questions in the chat room. Keep in mind that our goal is not only the current conversation, which I'm sure is going to be fascinating, but mostly creating a network. So please, in the chat, introduce yourselves. You could post links. You could post, any ideas that you have, any experiences that you think that the audience should hear in relation to the topic. When you don't speak, however, please mute your mics to be able to have a good sound quality throughout the webinar. So again, welcome to the webinar. Thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us. And at this point, Anna, you have the floor for the introductory segment.
Thank you, Vlad. I want to welcome all the speakers and all the participants. We'll start to introduce our great speakers. I'm sure they have very good stories about peace and sports. And our first speaker is Dr. Sumas Abuali. She's a professor at George Mason University from USA. Welcome, Dr. Sumas. And I want to ask you, please tell us about how you use sports to address the conflicts. What kind of experience do you have? What activities do you do for this?
Okay, hi everyone. Hi Vlad, hi Anna, hi everyone joining in. Thanks for your time today. I do have a little, some experiences to share with you and look forward to your questions hopefully afterwards. So as Anna mentioned, I'm currently a professor at George Mason. I'm also a world champion and 14-time US national champion in traditional karate. And a few years ago, I'm also in line with many of the things that Vlad said in terms of sport. It does have the potential to be a catalyst for positive change. So I'll begin with one local story, one international story. A few years ago, I launched a 9-month-long program at a local high school in the United States in Virginia. There was a large gap between the wealthy students and the lower income students who were really mostly immigrants with little English skills. And what this translated into for the lower income group was a lack of opportunities for them at the school, a zero sense of belonging, and high incidence of aggression, such as like fights and disruptions in the classroom. So the karate program we started was designed to be non-contact. So what that means is that you execute a technique full force, but physically you stop the technique at a point of contact while you're still transferring the energy of the force that you created. So you're not actually hitting the person. But this setup enabled the students to learn not only self-defense skills, but also how to control their emotions and their body. The class drew about 70% males and 30% females, and mostly the immigrant students as well. Interestingly, within weeks of the program, the school teachers began approaching us to say that the karate students had become more respectful, more calm, and overall more responsive to them and their fellow students. So much so that in the event that these students did misbehave, that the school teachers would threaten to tell their karate instructors. So things like for Spirit Day at the school, where students from other students in other sports team would wear their uniforms, the karate students wore their karate uniforms all day. We went to 2 local competitions. We had guest speakers. We were featured in local newspapers. All that, all that good stuff. So, but ultimately, the students' attitudes they shifted to having a sense of belonging and identity, which really in turn shifted their behaviors, all within the very same context, which was the school and its conflicts. And so while we didn't change the actual conflict, many of which resulted from structural violence, we did create positive change individually and collectively as a class. In another example, as a member of the USA national karate team, my teammate and I were invited by our organization's top officials to train with members of the Polish national team. And so the US and Polish teams, the athletes there were often competing against each other in international competitions. So there's always like a lot of intensity between us. So we were, of course, like really wary of one another when we met in the training space. But what happened is that we defaulted on our rituals and our ways of being from karate, which really enabled us to create new positive experiences other than the ones that we had where we're gonna like go at each other in competition. So in the absence of language, we communicated through our techniques, and eventually we found ourselves becoming more curious about the other, which then translated into us spending time after training, sharing foods from our culture, teaching English and Polish words. Okay, mostly cuss words, but like, we began with those. And to this day, the members of that team, of that year's team, we interact with a certain respect and camaraderie, even during competition years when we meet up there. So let me sum up several key points from these two examples, one which was local and one which was international. In order to shape hearts and minds through sports or the arts, it's important to, one, have or create a strict template that illustrates a way of being. For us, in this example, it was karate. Two, make sure that this template incorporates ways of being which focus on one's attitudes, behavior, and considers the issues of the context. So in this example, issues were lack of belonging, aggression, and intense competition among elite athletes. And three, focus on incorporating as much somatic activities as possible. And I'll end with this. This last point about the somatics, it was unearthed from my dissertation, if you will. If you have an experience that intensely engages as many of one's biological senses, touch, smell, sight, hearing, there's a higher chance for change to occur. Activities that engage the whole body are powerful, therefore, because a deeper level of understanding actually takes place beyond what only the intellect can process. And the timing of this entire process is super important in shifting how participants think. So any lessons or thought exploration activities should actually be implemented immediately after the somatic experiences. And that's kind of like that golden hour where you go from like the afternoon to the evening. There's that like really like precious fleeting space in between there. That's exactly the same thing. So through sport-based activities, sport-based interventions that want to create positive change, you gotta structure your programs this way, and you gotta watch out for that timing. That's when you can actually impart certain lessons. So for any more of those details on these kind of theoretical stuff, you can read my dissertation, but hopefully those pointers will help you all out.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sumas. It's really like a scientific approach of the conflict resolution through sports, and I'm sure that our participants will have lots of questions. So our next speaker is Mahmoud Hebi. He's a founder and program director at Hopes for Peace from Israel. Mahmoud, welcome. And again, please, the same question, how you use sports to address the conflicts.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Solomons. Pleasure to be with you guys. I will talk more about, how the idea behind Hoops for Peace came to my daily life here in Israel and Palestine, and the situation here and the sports and Hoops for Peace. I'm gonna share with you here like a quick slide, try and give you an idea. I hope everyone is seeing the screen. Can you see it? Wait, just no. Again, all right. Yep. All right, so I'm gonna start with a short video. I hope everyone can see this video.
For Peace. We're an Israeli-Canadian nonprofit organization that offers basketball workshops for both Israeli and Palestinians. This initiative symbolizes the contribution of ordinary citizens to today's complex social problems. Some people think that they can only benefit by creating a company that brings them financial profits. But in fact, we can also benefit by investing in social enterprises to address common challenges. Our participation here is not political at all. It's simply the social engagement of global citizens in global. Our mission is to create a safe space where boys and girls of different ethnic and religious backgrounds can come together and enjoy the game of basketball. Our vision is to encourage youths to overcome their differences and create genuine friendships, so that they can become empowered agents for lasting peace and make positive changes in their communities. For peace.
For the game and for peace.
For the game and for hope.
For the game and for peace.
For the game and for hope.
为了比赛，为了和平。For the game and for hope.
Right. So this short video tells about the organization and the idea and why we decided to do this. For me, my name is Mahmoud, and I'm a basketball coach. I used to be a nurse before I decided to go back to sports and to do things to bring my communities to a better a place, because I see a lot of things. I came from a small village. All Muslims, Arabs, lives in north of Israel, and I've been living this conflict here, and I wanted to do something. And I think we all agree here that the sports is the perfect tool to change. And I do believe in that. And I think all the participants in this great webinar believes in that. So sports is the perfect tool to change. Now, the question is how we use that, right? And we focus on the organization in some of important things like foster friendship, social cohesion, mutual acceptance, woman empowerment, which is so important, and that will focus on that. And to create positive changes in our community using basketball and sports. And it's beautiful picture here from one of our events where you can see Jewish, Muslims, the Christians and the Druze, all the different backgrounds in Israel and Palestine together in one photo, not competing, right? But it's all about cooperation, right? So I'm gonna focus on that. So competition factor in all fields is important to develop and progress, but we should ask ourselves, why do we compete, right? What is the vision behind competition and how we use this to serve our communities? So what I want to say here as a coach is through the basketball and sports, I want this new generation and ages from 12 to 18, before they leave and go to, to the big world, I want them to understand we compete to get better, to get stronger, right? To earn self-confidence and respect. And I want these kids and these youths to use this to serve their communities, right? To find place when they turn to be 21, 22, 25, to come back and serve their community. And sports is a perfect tool to do that. Now, we focus a lot about, let's say, like optimism and trust and confidence and communication is so important to any community. And for me as a coach, I do compete, right? We all compete. But I want, from this competition, I want the youths to get these important values, right? And to turn to be 18 years old and to know how they use this to come and serve the community at the end of their. This is the goal, all right? Now I want to go fast because I want to focus on a couple things at the end. Now, the objectives in generally, as usually engaged organization, we have determined several objectives, like create a safe and natural space where youths from different ethnic backgrounds can come together, present a successfully role model woman in order to empower young. And there's an Arabic saying that we say in Arabic, al-mar'a nisf al-mujtama, which is say in English, woman is half of the society. And this is totally right. I do believe in that. And that's why we focus on females in this idea. And at the end, of course, promote healthy lifestyle habits, which is so important. And we see with the pandemic COVID-19 how all the people, get back to do sports and activities. Now let's focus on the team. The beautiful thing about Hoops for Peace is the staff team. We got Jewish coaches, Christian coaches, and Muslim coaches working together. And we all believe that sports is the perfect tool to change that, okay? So far from politics, far from complicated things, far from all these things, we believe that sports is the tool to make the community here in Israel a better place for our kids in the future, right? So, also, we don't forget about the physical disabilities people. Also, we focus on this facility in our societies and we cooperate with them because we want to touch in all the society. So at the end, we want to provide, let's say, like patience and creativity, teamwork, discipline, and challenge all come back to respect. So it was a very fast thing, but what I want to say, Hoops for Peace came from an idea again that I want to tell a story about me. I turned to be 18, living in a small village, all Muslims, all Arabs, and finishing my high school. I didn't even see one Jewish friend all my way till 18, and I was thinking about that, all the we missed a lot social activities. Okay, mathematics is important, English is important, Hebrew is important, but but for example, I'm talking English now because I played basketball when I turned to be 19, and when I started to play basketball, I met a lot of friends from all over the world in Jerusalem, and that's improved my English. And then I realized that to know English, not just to take to pass the exam, let's say the Bagrut exam in high school, and that's it. No, I need English to communicate with people. And how I do connect this with our activities, we focus on languages because we believe that sports is also a perfect tool to make this kid understand, okay, you have to know Hebrew, you have to know English, not just because of to take a good mark. No, when you turn to be 18, don't be afraid to go and talk in English and meet people from different backgrounds and talk Hebrew to communicate with people. So we believe that languages is the key, okay, to open our communities and to give these kids self-confidence to go out and meet people and talk Hebrew and use English to communicate, not just because they want to pass the exam. So a lot of ideas in the school that when I remember about, my story when I was in elementary school and junior school and high school, I was thinking a lot about this, and nobody was telling us, doing things for us. So my first Jewish friend I met when I turned to be like 24. And this is crazy if you think about it, right? Because if you want to live together, so we need to focus on social activities, and sports is the perfect tool to do that. So we focus on bringing kids from small villages in north of Israel, right? And the center, then Jerusalem, then Tel Aviv. The mission is to create a safe space for these kids, right? And when they come together, we will provide them a high level of basketball. We provide them, and we will focus, we will give them a high professional basketball level, but we're not gonna compete in that. We're gonna cooperate in this to become better persons, okay? To be the best versions of ourselves, and to give these kids a gate or a door to open doors for this new generation to meet from a very young age. Say like 18 years and 8 years and 9 years. I want them to get together. And those Arabs to talk Hebrew from 8 years old, to know why they need Hebrew, to know why they need English. And I found sports is the perfect tool to explain them why you should turn to be 18. You know Hebrew and you know English and not just Arabic, because you want to communicate with people around you. And this is a perfect way to make this society and make this place a safer and better place for everyone. So we all want lasting peace. I want peace. I want to wake up one day here, all right, and go anywhere I want and do whatever I want, because but how this gonna happen if we don't do anything about it? So it's become when ordinary people decided to take action in order to get to this lasting peace. We talk about politics and government and it's their job, but in the real time, no, it's our job. It's people's job, I'm a coach, director, managers, organizations. This is our job to light this in this new generation's head and make them understand that we want to do sports, not just to compete. We want to do sports to earn this and turn to be 18 years old with self-confidence, with understanding why languages is so important for us, especially here in Israel. Not just, and to answer this question to these youths, why it's important to do everything that you want to do is important to understand why you're doing it, okay? So when I was in high school, I was asking myself, why I need to know Hebrew just to pass the exam? No, it wasn't clear for me. And now I feel it's my job to take action and do some activities and sport, and to use sports to make these kids understand why it's important to develop ourselves, why it's important to meet people, to cooperate with people, and to go out from this small village and live 18 years old with the same people, and then to go out to the university, for example. So and just the last example I want to give here. In my first year in the university, I noticed that the Jewish students, sitting these sides, and the Arab students sitting these sides, it's like they're afraid to go and talk to each other. Why? Because they missed a lot of things when they were in the elementary, junior, and high school, and they didn't focus on what and how to use languages to make them understand. Language is the key, and we use language a lot in our practices, in our activities. We focus that the Jewish kid talk some Arabic with an Arabic kid, and an Arabic kid talk Hebrew with a Jewish kid. Not to take to pass an exam, no, because it's important to get these lasting peace. So we need to know more about each other, and sports is the perfect tool to do that. All right. So that's what I wanted to share. I would love to ask any question about that. I was talking so fast. I'm sorry. It's like 7 minutes. So that's in generally. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mahmoud. That was very interesting. The work that you do is very big and huge, and we will come back because I already see lots of questions to you. So I will move to our next speaker, Tamar Hai-Sajiv. She's a Director, Education for Peace and Innovation Department, the Peres Center for Peace from Israel. Tamar, welcome to our webinar.
Hi, everyone. It's really exciting to see the diversity also of the participants from literally from all over the world. Amazing. So also thank you. And I'm really excited that you're attending this webinar. It is a privilege for me also to speak. I'm very honored to speak after my friend Mahmoud, and it really relates, everything I will say relates to the same topic. But as Vlad said, we're not just specifically, it's not about Israel or about the work, but I hope that each one of you will take from what we're talking, will get, first of all, an inspiration, and will also, will be able to implement some of the things in their own context, in their own region. I want to start, well, a little bit about myself. I'm in this sport and development field for the last 13 years. So I've seen a lot, and it's been a while for me in this field. And many people always ask me if it's my work, it's getting easier every year in terms of working in sport and peace building. And every year my question is that it's getting harder and harder. And people are usually surprised why this is my answer. And I answer this because we cannot avoid, specifically if you work in the field of peace building and sport, you cannot avoid from the political sphere, you cannot avoid from the political situation, and because all our programs are affected by it. Now we are affected by the pandemic. This is another topic we can discuss. But in the end of the day, if the situation here is much more calm, if the politics or there is no escalation in violence, we can run our programs more safely, but we are affected by it. We are not political, specifically our organization, but any program that you will hear in this field. It's not a political program, it's not a political organization, but we are working in this political context, so we cannot ignore that. All the beneficiaries in our programs are affected by that. Their mindset, the stereotypes, the way they think about the other, what all the challenges, and I would say the barriers we are facing once we work with our beneficiaries, are basically designed and affected by the situation. So this is why the organization I'm working for, already in 2002, we understood that in order to try and build peace, not just top down as the politician, but really to build peace from bottom up and to plant the seeds of the younger generation that hopefully will achieve peace in this region and will build peace in this region, we understood that we need to find a very simple, I would say, topic, issue that kids, family, like the common people will be able to connect to and will be happy kind of to join those type of peace building programs. And sport for us was the key of success, and specifically soccer, football, because in our region this is the most popular sport. But in the end of the day, we understood that if we will come into those communities that are not in favor of the word peace, this will open the door. We will say, we are now coming to the community, for the Palestinian community or the Jewish community or the Arab or the Muslim, whatever. We are coming with a sports program. We're giving you twice a week an after-school program that your kids will be able to have a safe space to get some education and build their self-esteem and all the other, skills that sports supports and develops. But then from the back door, we are bringing all this peace education heavy stuff, as we say, without really confronting it or tackling it very, really indirect. Because at least here in the context, no matter if it's a Palestinian community or an Israeli community, if you will say the word peace, unfortunately, this connects to what I said in the beginning, why I'm saying my work is getting harder. People are becoming a little bit, I would say, they feel a little bit of despair because nothing is changing in this political climate. So it's getting harder to attract families, parents, and kids, youth, to join those peace-building programs because they see that nothing changes. So they're saying, okay, why to waste my time in a peace-building program if I can go just football or just basketball program without all this Hebrew, Arabic peace things. So you need always to make sure that your programs being updated, are very creative, speaking in the language of those youth, not and thinking out of the box how you are taking this really complicated issue of peace building and conflict resolution and speaking in the language of sport. So one of the main things we understood since 2002, that we need to take football or any team sport and develop it and use it as an educational process, but not to speak education. So I can give an example for one thing that is very successful from our methods, is that we're using the fair play method, which is basically taking the game, you play, you mix the team, so it's Palestinian-Israeli team against another mixed Israeli and Palestinian team, and the game is divided to 3 parts. The first part will be that the 2 teams needs to find a way of deciding about the rules of the game. This part is a challenge for them. You have the language barrier because we don't speak the same language, but you also, now you need to be with your enemy, so-called, in the same team and decide what are the rules of the game that will, serve your game. So this is the first part. They need to communicate and decide. Of course, there is a mediator. We don't have coaches, and the mediator is running this discussion. Once they decide on 3 fair play rules and some football rules, the second part starts, and then they go and play on ground without a referee. So they need to remember the rules they decide on, and the game will look like the way they will play. So the responsibility on the game is on them. And they also understand that they need to find ways how to communicate among their team. So they play the game. If there are some conflicts, they need to stop and discuss and find solution. And the most important part in this method is the third part, at least to my understanding and at least how I saw the impact of it. The third part is basically bringing them together again, because usually when you play a game, there's the winning team and the losing team. Some kids are going very happy home and some of them are very disappointed. So the third part is basically bringing them together to sit down and reflect about the way they played, about the other team, how they played, and then discussing about the fair play points and the rules. So sometimes even if you scored many goals, you can get some extra points because you played fair. And then the winning team not necessarily will be the winning team anymore. So these things, and why you play it, and this is we're using it every time the kids meet. It's being built. The process is being built. The educational process is being built through playing this game. I'm giving it really on speed and really in a nutshell, but I think you got the idea of the method. And the other thing that we are insisting in all our sports program is that we are playing in mixed teams always, despite the fact that the program runs parallel, both in the Jewish community and a Muslim community or Israeli community or Palestinian community. We have those joint meetings, joint training, where they do everything together. It's very similar to what Mahmoud described, and it works. It works since 2002, I can tell you, and it's a challenge. It's a process. There are lots of challenges, especially when it comes to trust and misunderstanding because of the language barrier. But the fact that they have a common goal, and this is what we want to achieve, the fact that they have a common goal, they need to win a game, helps basically to support this educational process. And a little bit also about the programs, because in Israel and in general in this area, we are focusing either inside Israel with the diversity of the citizens that we have here. We are working within the Muslim community, Druze community, Bedouin, Jewish, so bringing together the communities in an after-school program, because I don't know how much you know, the educational system in Israel is, I would say, is based kind of segregation. So for me, as a child, as a Jewish, I'm Jewish, I was born and raised in Israel. The first time I met Arab person was in an exchange program when I was 16. It was very political, and it even made it strengthened the stereotypes I had towards Arabs during this exchange, which for me as an adult that is now engaged in those kind of programs, I'm trying kind of to correct and to give a second chance and to make things in a very positive and to bring a different attitude than the usual exchanges that we have here between the cultures and the religion. So, and specifically for me, I think sports really does that. It's not just sitting in a room in a dialogue session and talking about the conflicts and the narratives. It's about really understanding the first stage of everything in peace building, that the people that in front of you are also humans. You need to humanize the other. And this is what you need to do from a very early stage, to make people understand, those kids to understand that a Jewish or an Arab boy or a girl are the same. And even if there are differences, they are not threatening you, because we have deepened fear from each other because we don't know each other. We barely have interaction. So those kind of programs needs to create those safe spaces for kids from different backgrounds, different religions, to finally have a space where they can share and play and enjoy and build a positive attitude and break down those stereotypes that we are all educated on. And I will finish just with a personal story, and then because I can speak and speak and speak a lot, and you can see where we love our job, doing that. I always say you need to choose to be in this job every day, because it relates to what I said in the beginning, because nothing is changing on the political side. You say, okay, so what the heck? Now, why to do this over and over again? But I think the fact that what makes me wake up every morning and come to the office is the fact that I believe that I'm really planting the seeds, and one day we will see the impact of our work, because there must be a change. So yeah, I think I will finish with that, and I'll give the floor to the questions. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. It was really very interesting, all your stories. And as I understood from all your stories, the key role and the most important role in all the activities we have are the coach's role. because the kids are coming from different backgrounds, different families, different traditions. So I want to ask you, do you do any special trainings with the coaches? Do they need to have any special skills to be in these programs? Because if the coach will do something wrong, the program will fail completely, because everything is based on how the coach will gather and create the team for these kids. So let's hear from all of you. What do you do for the coaches? Tammy, you can start.
Yeah, because I saw my mic is not on mute, so I'm just taking the floor back. Yeah, you're right. Coaches, we, in the beginning of the program, we call them and we basically saw them as coaches, only coaches. But then the terminology changed. We are calling them educators, and we needed to go a very tough and in-depth process with each one of them because they didn't see themselves as educators. I'm a football person. What do you want from me now, to stand and talk about values, things like this? And they didn't understand the power and the impact they have on the beneficiaries. So for sure, they are also the key to success in the programs. And you need to invest also parallel to the beneficiaries, the kids. They are also your target beneficiaries. You need to invest in their training. And in addition, just one more thing, in the model that we're working, we are recruiting the coaches from the communities we're working in. So it needs to be someone that the community knows, trust, that knows how to speak in the language of that, not like the literal language, but has a respect in the community, because otherwise it will not work. We are the outsiders. Okay, so you need someone from the inside.
Okay, thank you. Mahmoud?
Mahmoud, your mic is off.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah. Now we can hear you.
Yeah, so I was saying it's so important if you're working in nonprofit and you're working, you really believe that what you want to provide to these kids, as my friend here, Tamar, says, we're planting seeds here. And you want the coach that deal with this 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. He don't actually focus about competition. That's in the first place. He come now, if it's basketball or it's karate or it's football, first thing, the coach have to love this thing, right? I love basketball. I believe in sports, right? So this is important, and not just how much I'm gonna get paid at the end of the month, because these coaches focus on that. And I'm not gonna judge now here, but the team that I want to work with them, I'm gonna mention here Coach Tal, Coach Gal, the development coaches and the nutritionists, nutrition. They're from Yokinam, the Jewish Coach Yaniv from Hebrew University, and Shahad Aboud, MVP Israeli basketball players. All these guys, we have like something common in our vision, which is bring us together. Now, the team, first of all, have to have a clear vision, right? How, and there's I feel that I need to do something to my community, right? This is my responsibility, right? So this is in the first place, and the coach need to makes this with every practice, right? We need to how you start the practice or the activity, what you talk with the kids, what topics you mention, right? And how you explain things for the youths. What I mean is explain things, how you explain why we competing. Okay, you want to become better, let's say, people or strong people when we turn to be 18 to serve our team, our community, our village. And this is so important, the monologue or the dialogue that the coach do with the youths. So we do a lot of meetings talking about this, right? What we believe. And it's important to have this conversation between the coaches in the first level, that we repeat on the value of the sports and how it's important that our job, what we're doing, it's important for the new generation. So I saw someone here wrote about there's a lot of conflict in this world, all right? We're not talking about Palestinian and Jewish here. There's a lot of conflict in this world. But I believe that in every process, when we're talking now about peace, and when we talk about peace, there are two kinds of peace now. This is like peace. I want to live in peace of mind. Okay, I want to just go to my work and come back. Peace at home. I don't want to. And we're talking about peace between people that are fighting. And when we talk about peace for these kids, right? We want to know the right words to choose and to explain to them while they working together. Okay, and this is so important. At the end, I want to say that. So when you choose the coaches that you want to work with them, especially if you're nonprofit and you're working for peace, that's so important to choose them. And for me, the coaches that we work in Hopes for Peace, we have something in common before we start this idea. Okay, so we met before, right? We met in 2011 and 12, and we have a couple things together, and then we bring this Hopes for Peace idea. So that will make your organization stronger and the team stronger to go forward.
Thank you, Mahmoud. Sumas, do you have anything to add or say?
Yeah, so it's a little bit, I guess, different with the martial arts in that, I mean, first of all, any martial arts coach who would be working between divided groups or in a conflict region or something should definitely default to what I was should be prepped on, again, the attitudes, the behaviors, and the context, right? That's number one. So you can't go in there blindly and just teach people how to punch and kick. So that's number one. But in the karate world, it's a little bit different because we default on and again, when I say karate, I'm talking about specifically traditional karate. I know there's different kinds of karate, and karate could mean taekwondo or could mean kung fu. I mean, a bunch of different things, but traditional karate is what I'm talking about. And within that, we have something called a Budo philosophy, and it's very, very, very prominent in Japan. It's almost like a religion, a way of being also, and that has certain tenets that we fall back on, which really put the self at the center of a spiritual, mental, mind, body, spirit development. And through you embracing these tenets and acting out on those tenets, the idea is that then you will be a contributive member of society. And so these tenets are things like, I'll seek perfection of character, I will be respectful to others, I will refrain from violent behavior and seek emotional self-control. There are these tenets. And so most karate instructors, typically when they're teaching a class, design their trainings to start to teach these tenets. And as a simple example is we begin and end the end of every class with a 1-minute meditation where we recite these tenets, we close our eyes, we meditate, almost like a mindfulness activity, and then we go about our practice so that we, no matter what happened during our day in our outside world, we're able to, at least for that 1 hour, come to a space of mindfulness, of togetherness, and of wholesomeness within ourselves, and then give that feeling to others in the class and have that same feeling be reciprocated to us. And that builds positive experiences. That builds a sense of togetherness. It, like Tamar was saying, it humanizes one another to each other. And then at the end of class, we come back and we do that same meditation. And so, yeah, does it work all the time? I mean, we'll have to conduct a study on that one, especially typically with the martial arts, but it is a starting point. And the thing is, we have to start at somewhere. Yes, I see a lot of comments here about documenting stuff. Do you have documented? Do you have measurements and all that stuff? Yes. I mean, that's all extremely important, especially when you're talking about funding and to get more money for your program to be able to continue it. I get it. But there's also value in the qualitative stories and testimonials that happen. And I think we need to get to a place where we can really understand the value of that and base metrics on the qualitative as well as the quantitative, because we're just not going to get anywhere focusing on one versus rather. We're so numbers driven, but the reality is that we as people don't function in numbers. We're human beings, we're complicated beings. And so we need to be able to have measurements that reflect that. So I lost my train of thought, what I was going to say, but that's kind of where I'll leave it to there.
Okay. Thank you. And I want to go back to my co-host, Vlad, to see if we have questions from our chat room.
We have plenty of questions. One thing I want to say from the very beginning is that all continents are with us, as far away as Australia and Japan in the middle of the night. So this is really very exciting to have the world together for this very important topic. So lots of amazing questions. I will start by actually combining, three of them and appeal to the speakers to actually respond briefly to have time to as many questions as possible. So there are three aspects here that seem interesting, at the beginning of this conversation. So Araz was talking about the importance of diversity. As you build your programs, how do you make sure that they are diverse? How do you deal with diversity within your program? Then Mahmoud and Adam Krut were asking, and actually a number of people asked about this. What about the parents? So, to some extent, working with the kids is it's natural. Kids like to play, so kids are more likely to buy into this, into what you are trying to accomplish. But then they go home to their parents, and the parents have to be a support mechanism for your program. How does that work? And the last question, and I'm trying to actually you respond. You pick and choose whatever you want to do. Coming from Dean Avica, and he's asking about this idea of the kids go through very interesting and exciting programs, but then they go back home to their realities. Sometimes those realities are conflictual, and sometimes those realities are not as supportive as it is the case with the program itself. And we encounter this in exchanges lots of times. That is, so people, even kids or young people tell us that as I go back home and I go back to my own reality. So these three aspects: diversity, parents, community support, going back home. How do you handle this in your program? So because I saw that Tommy was reacting body language to my question. So maybe Tommy, you could start.
Well, yeah, I know it's very difficult for me to hide that. So yeah, I will start. I want to answer about the parents and also and the last question. Parents, of course, especially when you're working in such a sensitive environment that is affected by anything that is happening, like from the political aspect. It connects to the coaches as well, because for us, in order to recruit the kids, we kind of using the coach in order to recruit the kids and approach the parents. We do every year in the beginning of the year, we have parents meeting locally when the coach is leading it in conjunction with someone from our team. So in the Jewish community, the Israeli community, there will be a Jewish coach and someone from my team that speaks Hebrew. And in the Palestinian community, there will be the Palestinian coach together with someone that speaks Arabic or other Palestinian, someone from my team. So we do it separately. We speak very open. We give them, we are letting them feel secure and safe in a way that it's not something that is going to change the mindset or to influence the kids in a brainwashing, to brainwash their kids from a political aspect. So it's a sports program, educational program that really touches the basic, the core, I would say the core values of sports: mutual respect, and teamwork, and etc. So this in the beginning of every year. Now we are doing it virtually because of the pandemic. And then during the year, we try to, wherever we can, to create some also parents meeting. When we are doing the cross-border program, which means working with the West Bank, Palestine, and Israel, it's more challenging, but we succeed to do at least one parents meeting every year because we want the parents also to meet. I have many testimonies from parents that told me that they were convinced by their kids to come to the meetings. They didn't want to meet any Palestinian or any Arab, but because their kids are talking at home about the program, they were convinced to come. So the kids has an impact on their parents in their own private surrounding. It's not always like this, because some of the kids are feeling sometimes a bit ashamed or to talk about the programs that are participating, because they will be called as like either traitors, lefty, whatever other nicknames that unfortunately is part of our reality. So sometimes they hide the fact that they participate in something like this, or they play together with Arabs or play together with Israelis. But this is, so this is about the parents. And yes, the program itself and the meetings when they take place, it's, I would say, when you look at the football ground, the football pitch, you see, to be honest, an alternative reality to what we have outside the pitch and off the field. You see people that looks the same, more or less, play in the same team, they wear the same uniform, and you really are able to see peace. This is the closest to peace we have. But once, yes, they go home, it's either the Palestinian that needs to go to the checkpoint and to go through all this, processes, security processes, or either the Israeli kid is going back to their hometown and there are some missiles a day after or at night. Yes, the reality is there, but we are not ignoring it. In the next meeting, we will reflect and we will discuss about their feelings. But this needs to be handled in a very sensitive way, but in conjunction with the coach, not to put all the responsibility on the coach, but to have someone that is, of course, educated and trained to lead this kind of discussion. You need to bring the feelings into the field, into the trainings, but again, to keep it and to speak in the language of sports, because otherwise they will not participate, they will not share, and they will not talk. I hope I managed to answer a little bit about that.
It's a very important point, actually, somebody else was raising, this idea of to what extent the real issues, the conflictual issues are openly discussed, in the session versus using sport as a metaphor and as a tool to reach out to that. So let's hear from Mahmoud, if Mahmoud has a few thoughts, again, briefly, to go to as many questions as possible. Mahmoud?
Yeah, about the parents and the kids. For me as a coach, what I see in a kid when the kid come to me for let's say 1 hour an activity, how I believe that the kids is the way that the coach can connect with the parents. I agree that when the kids go back to their home, it's just like the TV and the news and the newspaper and the whole environment thing. But if I'm a coach and I know my job, I know what questions I ask this kid, what ideas, new ideas to provide to these kids, to go home and discuss this with their parents, maybe this kid will turn new lights in the parents' head and say, oh, there's something interesting is going on. I want to go to watch next time. So what I want to say here, it all depends on the coach. And what is coach actually? When we say word coach, what we mean by the word coach? Coach, use powerful questions, all right, to make these kids want to learn more, want to know more, not just these things that he heard in the TV or from his parents. No, the world is bigger than this. I want to know more. So this is a big opportunity to open doors in the minds of these kids, and these kids go back home and share these things with the parents, and this will give like hope, all right, that these parents will believe in this organization and believe in this activity and will send their kids. And the coach encourage actions, all right. I will encourage this kid to do actions that he is like afraid to do it, when he be at home. Maybe he heard something from his parents, don't do that, but when he comes and try it, he go, oh, listen, we did 1, 2, we did 2, 3. What I want to say is, it's what you implant in the kids is mind, all right? And I want this kid to go back and share what he said with his parents, and maybe these kids will change his parents. And what I'm not gonna say anything against the parents. No, I love my parents, but we all agree that sometimes the parents do over like thinking, and like they maximize in how they want to protect their kids, and this will lag their kids, all right, to go and play with this Arab or these Muslims or Christian, or you know what I'm saying. But when they come to me and they show them, no guys, we're here, we're having fun, right? In the first place, we're having fun, and we and we knowing new things about ourselves, yourselves, and this will change not the kid is mind, no, I believe that the kid can change his parents' mind, and this is a very important point I want to put the light on. And one more thing, it's again, it's about the coach. If you are a coach that you believe that the sports is the tool to change, and you go prepared and you ask the right questions, and you let this kid go back with something in his head, okay, I want, every time that the key to plant the seeds in the right place, and the kids is the seeds, and this is important. So we focus on the kid, and we believe that the kid can change what the parents think and believe, and they will make sure when they come and watch and see. That's how we build this bridge between the parents, the kids, and the coach, and then the organization, and it depends on these bridges that you put.
Definitely. And that's the reason I told you at the beginning that, what was fascinating for me in that exchange for Armenia and Turkey in Armenia is this idea that, I was more interested to see this dynamic, what was happening with the parents and the grandparents and those people who are more charged with, history, information, so how they interacted. And it was an amazing experience to see. And this idea, what you all talked about, this idea that it goes both ways. It goes, obviously from parents to kids, but at some point from kids to parents. And that's probably an important and interesting flow of information. So, I know, Mahmoud, so we'll have another chance. So maybe Sumas has a few thoughts. And I'm looking here, Brigitte, I'm not sure if I pronounced her name correctly, was asking to explain a little bit this diversity concept. That means, so how do you bring people together? And, you could address any of the other points, but, if you could, revisit a little bit the idea of diversity in programming and the value of it.
Okay, so I think, but first of all, kudos to my colleagues here, because what you guys are doing, you're on the ground every single day. This is very, very difficult work, and it's emotionally draining for you guys too. So you all have to be on it every single day to deal with the challenges. And the progress you made yesterday might not be the progress you have tomorrow or next week. So it might feel like two steps forward, or one step forward, two steps back. But regardless, this idea of, this issue of transferring the effect from individual, or from one generation to another, from individual to collective community is huge, and it's hard. I don't think there's one answer, because every conflict you're in, every conflict zone, or every group you work is its own unique entity. So all we can do is start with these, these best practices, and then build on those best practices to make sure it fits the context, right? Again, attitude, behaviors, context. But one thing I found, I found particularly also through my dissertation is that, and where I observed several NGOs that are sports-based interventions, but in the US, working on several different conflicts, is that what you're really trying to do with transference, first we need to understand what we're doing before we can figure out how to do it, is you're trying to change, you're trying to shift one's existing ways of thinking and being to a reimagined way of being and doing. And that's what you're really trying to do. And one of the ways that you can do that, I guess, in practice, in implementation, is that you can involve the parents, as hard as that will be, but involve and give responsibilities to the parents who are willing to play a role in the actual program. And it could be as simple as taking attendance. It could be very, very simple, or it could be more complicated, but you need to involve the parents. And in that way, the parents are now having a more than an intellectual, or they're not just hearing about the program through their kids, right? But they're also physically, emotionally being involved in the actual program. And it goes back to what I was able to kind of unearth through after all this digging and observing of all these organizations, is that if you involve people, the more you involve the whole body experience of people in any goal or in any endeavor, the more you will be able to impact them. So don't just let the parents hear about what's going on. Don't just let the parents talk about their own generational experiences to their kids, right? create a space where both can actually have this whole body, whole person experience in the program. And in that way, you'll be able to kind of begin to shift existing ways of thinking being to a reimagined way of thinking being. And that's really what transference means, at least at this point in time. This is what I think. So we'll see.
Thank you. So we like doing these webinars to try something to actually give one of the members of the audience, a few words to say. So Amadi, you are in Nigeria, as far as I understood, and if you could connect this microphone and camera, please 2 or 3 minutes about what you do back there, your experience with conflict resolution, if you can.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Coach Amadi Chukwemeka. I'm the founder, president, American Football for Africa Mission, a non-profit with 501c in North Carolina, USA, and also registered here in Nigeria as headquarters. At the moment here, our mission site is in the north region of Nigeria, where we have a peculiar case about insecurity, insurgencies, a lot of conflict and all that. We're using football as a vehicle to reach out to the youths because we believe so much that the youths are the most at risk and vulnerable in the society, and then they could become Trojans of violence and conflict. And then we try to use football sports to reach out to them, to change their mentality, to try to give them an alternative to violence, try to build confidence in them and bring hope to them, while also educating them, because education is the key. I've listened to Dr. Abuali, if I don't pronounce her name well, sorry. She was talking about, getting to the parents, conflict. There's an entry point, getting to these kids. First and foremost, from our own experience out here in Nigeria and in northern region of Nigeria, we experienced a kind of a direct link from the local monarch. Like they have the authorities, to reach out to the parents. They have authorities over the community. So when we went out for missions, we were able to get to this local monarch, tell them about our missions and what we want to do in the community. Like peculiarly in Nigeria here, we have over 280 ethnic groups, various religions. And so religion, ethnicity has been a very major, problem in conflict, bringing up conflict in the society. So arresting that, we have mapped out the youths are the Trojans, that have been used by most of these elderly ones. And they constitute about 75% of the population size. So the only way out for us to get into, getting the access to these kids, getting access to the communities, getting through the local chiefs, through the monarchs. And when we get in permits and endorsements from them, that makes it more easy for the parents to release their kids. And so when we teach them, we look at sports, peculiarly we look at football. Various types of people are in football, playing together, fighting a common adversary, which is, advancing the ball. For we, over here, we know our common adversaries, which is poverty, which is diseases, which is, insurgency, putting and harnessing the kids, their mentality towards fighting the common adversary, takes away what divides us. Ethnicity, religions, all those conflicts entries are being put aside. People come together to fight a common adversary. So for us, sports is a very, very strong tool. And then for us to look at, identify what's the really problem in the community. We see a lot of problems, especially in Africa: disease, poverty, lack of education. So when we ask, the local monarchs to give us access to these kids, and then we educate them, we try to orient them about the necessity to fight the common adversary rather than fighting ourselves. That keeps them busy. That gives them a new innovation. Like they open up a new chapter in their life. Oh, we identify our problem. When we live together, when we're taken care of, that we don't have so much to do fighting ourselves. Rather, we stick together to fight a common adversary. So for me, I don't want to go so much, like I don't have 2-3 minutes. Thank you for the time. I wish we could have much time to discuss more and probably have to do some partnership on there about to host programs all over the world. Thank you.
Definitely. And I promise you that we'll do a webinar about football, American football all over the world. So Nigeria should be part of this. We're proud of you for that and for many other reasons. So thank you, Amadi. So, so we have to administer kind of, like roughly 15-20 minutes right now for the program. So I would like to ask one more question and then we'll go back to Anna maybe to sneak in. So another question. So, so for our speakers, this idea, I know that you mentioned you mentioned this idea of monitoring success. And how do you define success in this area? How do you figure out that these programs were effective? had consequences, create change. Obviously, sure, that means, that there are certain quantitative and mostly qualitative ways of doing that. So let's start with Sumas, and then we'll go, the rest of the speakers briefly to be able to actually get another question before that.
Could we maybe pass the bucket so I can just think a little bit about how I want to answer this?
Definitely.
Come back to me.
Tammy, she's raises her hand. Yeah.
Okay. Again, this is always a question that repeats, and it should repeat, because without evaluating our programs, how we will know that we are doing and we have an impact to our work. So every project that we have and every program that we start is being evaluated, qualitative and also quantitative. We do, as everyone, I guess, here in the beginning of the program, we do the pre-questionnaire that we ask the participants different questions, and then in the end of the program, in the end of the year, we do a post questionnaire. So we compare, of course, the results. Most of the questions are related to the stereotype, to their mindsets towards the other. Asking the question, would you ever think of playing together in a mixed team? Would you ever think of inviting someone that is an Arab into your home? So this type of question, of course, we are doing the adjustments according to the age group. So with the younger ones, we are also using, we ask them to paint, to draw some things. And then we kind of analyzing it and comparing it and helping them to express their feelings. And with the older ones, we also do some, we do some small groups, focus groups, and literally really speaks with them and have discussions. And in addition to the direct beneficiaries, we are doing this with the coaches and also with the parents. So trying to tackle basically those three target groups in each evaluation program process.
Mahmoud?
Yeah, for me, I want to talk about local, let's say the results. For example, I want the girls that join our activities in Hopes for Peace. If I'm talking about the village, I want them to take an action, first of all, in their house, in their families, and in the schools. For example, I want to give example. I give the girls ideas, like to do an initiative. If you have an idea to do for your school, for example, share it with us. We will come to the school and do an activity, but bring us an ideas. What I want to say here, when one girl come and share an idea with me, for me, this is a goal that I reach. I want these girls to think that ideas, it's all start from ideas. So if this new generation start to think about ideas to develop their school, their class, or right, their neighbor, and we will move on. So we focus on that. And if I want to continue, when they turn to be 18 years old, I want these girls, when they go to the university in the first year, they go with self-confidence, make friends there, Jewish friends, if they're Arabs. No, don't afraid to do this. And to provide them, I want to focus on the basketball practice with basketball. I want them to be as strong basketball players, but not just to compete, all right? But where they go, they will give them a self-confidence. They will go to the university, they will play with the university team, and they will get, let's say, a help their families by paying the money for the university. If you play in the basketball team for the university, you will get like advantages. So we focus on the local goals. And then if I'm not saying the whole world, today from my village, there's girls to go and participate in exchange programs with the US Embassy, and they will go to the US and then we will visit a lot of places around the world, and they will make new friends from all over the world, not just from Israel. And this is, for me as an organization, this is a very important goal. Then when these girls turn to be 25 years old, 26 years old, and finish their degrees, they will finish the degrees with ideas, all right? They know now how to come back and serve their community, all right? And I will make sure that some of these girls, if they want, they can come and work and have a job in Hoops for Peace, maybe as coaches, maybe as assistant coaches, maybe there's a lot of goals, local goals. And I just mentioned here a couple ideas how we find the results and the success at the end. It depends on your vision as a manager, as a coach. So you put the vision and you put the results, and the results could be so different, not just in the competition side, it's in the social side, in the academic side, and in the economic side when these girls turn to be 25 years old. All right, so how you follow them 10, 12, 11, 18, 20, 25. That's how Akoma said it's a idea that's something to these girls. All right.
Thank you. Sumas, anything to add?
Yeah, so among the 10 organizations that I had studied in depthly, a lot of them, I mean, they're all doing evaluations, they're all doing assessments, right? That's no longer the problem in the sports intervention world. Everyone is doing them. Now, some may focus more qualitative, some quantitative, it's fine. But the issue is that, with the evaluations, they're doing evaluations of the coaches, and they're doing peer-to-peer evaluations among the coaches, and they're doing evaluation amongst the kids of the program. But what I caution against in that is that to make sure that the results of those evaluations are not influenced or written up in a way that caters to what funders want, so that you can continue to get more money. I would encourage SDP organizations or Sport for Change organizations to look for other sources of funding, like from private organizations, not so much public or so forth, where really the ideas of what is effective and what does success mean to the funders will impact how you frame and how you write up your evaluations through the assessments that you do among the organization. So it's very, very important to, and again, a lot of on their portfolios that I looked at, they do have a diverse portfolio of funders, but you need, I think at some point we need to figure out which ones will allow me to define success as success is really true to the changes that are happening within the specific context that I'm working in. What's happening, what changes that are happening in one community is not going to be the same in another community. And I think we have to give recognition and validity to that.
Definitely. So, I appeal to you to actually look also in the chat room, because there are many, I think Dean just wrote something about the measurements, which is actually very interesting. And in general, lots of ideas there, lots of contacts, lots of links. So this is meant not only, as a session, but rather build a network around this theme and sports for social good in general. So 10 more minutes. So I'll go back to Anna at this point for last question with brief answers, and then we'll close this. And obviously we hope to stay in touch for a long time after. Anna?
Thank you. So as Vlad mentioned, we do exchange programs, and the exchange programs length is 2 weeks maximum. And I want to ask you, during this limited time, what is the tips, what we need to focus on to have longer impact in 2 weeks? What we need to teach these different kids from different societies, from different countries, in order for them, as we said, to become an ambassadors in their own countries? Who will start? Mahmoud, yeah.
Sorry, Anya, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
What we need to focus during, let's say, 2 weeks exchange programs for these kids that are coming from different countries, different societies, what we need to teach them to have longer impact when they go back to their countries.
Right. Again, for me, since we are all here focusing on the new generation, as my friend Tamar said, we're planting seeds. So I believe that to give these kids the space to think and bring ideas, and to help them from a very young age, how they can make their ideas logic, let's say, make sense. Okay, I want to come an idea, and the idea must make at the end, to bring it to the real world, to help them in this. and make them in these 2 weeks, for example, okay, to work on idea. We as a coaches will help them, how they bring an idea, work as a team, and at the end come with something to build something, to do, let's say, an event or something, but they too, to give them the time, the opportunity to plan, okay, to really go in these things from a very young age, because and it's not easy, right? It's not easy, but it's just a vision that I believe that if we work with these kids from 10 years old, 9 years old, with on, it's a process, you know, everything in this world is a process, and you have to start from one point, right? But so that's a process that it could bring us all to a very beautiful place, to that new generation that will take the lead and make this lasting peace happen. We're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make the lasting peace. Maybe we're gonna, I don't know, I don't know how many years I'm gonna live, right? But I want to make sure why I'm doing something, giving tools. We need to give tools for these kids. And unfortunately, the schools, not enough, and is not doing enough job, and even the universities, I'm saying that unfortunately, okay, but we need to find this puzzle. There's a lot of missed pieces, and we need to give these missed pieces for the kids. And if you focus about give these kids the space, the opportunity to think, to bring an idea, and how they make this idea happen in the real world, that will open their minds, and they will become an agent of the lasting peace. I believe in that. I would love to share this with everyone here, okay, and work together to make this vision happen in the real world, all right? So that's what I wanted to share here.
Thank you, Sumas. Or Tammy, yeah, Tammy, you go.
Okay. Sorry, Sumas. Okay, so focusing on your question regarding an exchange, if I understood it correct, like tips for an exchange. So I think one of the important things is prior to the exchange is to have, I would say, a unilateral, a unicultural discussion really about the stereotypes and the thoughts and the fears both teams has before they are going, doing the exchange. And then during the exchange, to expose the two teams to as many inspirational stories that will also tackle the stereotypes that they were already talking about or came with into the exchange, and to break down those stereotypes, to travel and see the diversity and things that they will never see on the media, that they will never have the opportunity really to experience and see in their own eyes when they are afar or even in their own private surrounding. And based on that, I think, and based on different examples and exchanges we did in the past, they're coming back different people. Really, it's unbelievable what is this global international experience, how it kind of to some extent blows their minds sometimes. And I can say that I have one short, really short story that we took an Israeli-Palestinian team to South Africa in the 2010 World Cup. In Israel, we have Ethiopian community. So the Jewish kids usually see, other people with darker, skin, and they relate them to Ethiopians. And once we arrived to South Africa, to Joburg, we landed in the airport. And then one of the kids, the Jewish kids, looked at me and she said, "Wow, how many Ethiopians they have here." So this you see how they look at the world. It's a very narrow way of looking at it. I cannot blame them, but they don't understand. Or they don't really understand that they see many things from their own private, personal, local perspective. And once they travel outside their community, things are changing. By the way, for the good and for the bad, but this is for another webinar. But this is just an example.
Okay, so I say this with the premise that there probably is no right answer here, or most effective answer here, right? But I will say that for sport-based intervention, particularly because it is sport, I would say that programs should focus on increasing the participants' sense of belonging. Sense of belonging to an idea, sense of belonging to the group, sense of belonging to something that does not separate, focus on the separations between the groups or could, but between that, but something that merges the people together. So sense of belonging is huge. Do you ever wonder why, for example, if sports teams here, we have like the Washington, team here for football, NFL, like, I mean, people have been fans for 40 plus some years, like hardcore fans, but why? They're not getting paid. They're not getting anything from being a fan, but they are, because they have that incredible sense of belonging that sticks through, stereotypes, that sticks through different conflicts that they go through, name changes, whatever, but like they are hardcore pressed because they have a sense of belonging to that team. So find something that the participants can latch onto and increase their sense of belonging. That way, when they go back, they will always remember that, right? When you tell someone you're an athlete, someone was a college athlete or a professional athlete, they will always consider themselves an athlete. They will always feel like, okay, I'm an athlete, I was this way, I did that, because with a sense of belonging, it dictates your behavior and it dictates how you think and how you see the world. So again, I would focus on that, with the premise that, it might have to be tweaked here and there, but generally I would say that, particularly from the conflict resolution studies, a sense of belonging is very, very important.
And the Washington football team doesn't even win, so,
And the Washington football team doesn't even win. So there you go. It's like mind-boggling, right? So there must be something there to the sense of belonging.
It's mind-boggling, it's true. So thank you so much to all speakers and everybody in the audience. Again, for the speakers, there are many questions that you did not have time to answer, and I apologize for that, but they're in the chat, and our team could actually download the chat if you want to stay in touch. We hope that all of you will stay in touch, for the future. We had to revisit this topic, and in relation to what Sumas said, it was interesting. One of the questions that were asked by Gobi, that we don't have time for it, but maybe we should dedicate, is this idea of sports as a rivalry. He was giving the example of the cricket matches between India and Pakistan, and actually I attended one of those, and I could tell you that it is intense. And the question is, the masses of fans and supporters are not only positive factors for this type of attitude, towards tolerance, throughout the world. So this is something that maybe we should focus on another webinar. But unfortunately, we don't have enough time now. I want to thank the speakers, thank the audience from all over the world being part of us. This was a webinar part of the International Sports Programming Initiative of the State Department Sports Diplomacy Division. I saw in the audience Matt and Trina. I'm not sure if they're still with us. Ryan Murphy is our program officer from the State Department. I want to thank them for making all this possible. Wish you good luck in whatever you do. Amazing work that you do worldwide, and please stay safe. So goodbye. Thank you.